Welcome to the E-commerce Growth Show, brought to you by Segmentify.
Hello, and welcome everyone to the E-commerce Growth Show. I hope you're all doing really well today. So today, a very interesting chat with a guy called Mario Shiliashki. Now, Mario is the CEO of Global Payments at PayU, and he's leading payments, or is one of the leading payments provider in emerging markets. So this is going to be an interesting conversation about what's going on around the world in terms of payments and the opportunities for e-commerce merchants in those territories. So welcome, Mario. How are you doing?
Thanks, Phill. Great to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Lovely to meet you. And you're in London, right?
Same here. Yep. Calling you from London. Yep.
Yeah. And how's it there today?
Yeah, it's another interesting day in London. Cold summer.
yeah. Interesting and grey in the middle of July.
Yeah, we're seeing patches of blue over here. So
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's not so bad. Can't complain.
Yeah, that's great. Why don't you start just by telling the guys a little bit about your background? Because I'm not a massive payments expert on that, so it'd be really cool to tell the guys what the role that you've been in for the last few years.
Sure. So as you said, I lead the global payments business at PayU.
Mm-hmm.
At PayU, as you said, so we're the leading provider of online payments in emerging markets, what we call high growth markets.
Yeah.
We specialize in these high growth markets all the way from Latin America to Africa to Central Eastern Europe, Turkey, Russia, India, and Southeast Asia.
Okay.
And our focus is really to provide the best payments experience for both domestic e-commerce online digital merchants, as well as global e-commerce and digital merchants. That's our strong suit. That's our forte.
Okay.
Me personally, I've led this business for about I keep saying 5.5, but it's almost 6 now years.
Yeah.
Prior to this, I have a long career in PayPal in the early days and MasterCard. So a bit of a payments geek and love the space.
I was going to say you must have seen some pretty amazing transformation in this market if you've been around in like the early days of PayPal and stuff. I mean,
it's been an incredible set of transformations, but the one thing that doesn't change is people love to shop, and more of that's happening online. So I feel like I was in payments before it was cool and super high growth in online payments, and before fintech was a word. But feeling pretty privileged to be in this space now and leading a company that is in the right space, in the right markets, serving, we think, all the right merchants and looking for more.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it is such a blessing to be, in this time, in this market, for sure. Our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody that are struggling in various economies around the world that are in sectors that are really struggling still at the moment, and we wish them, quick recovery, as we're hoping to see, in the likes of travel industry and so on,
We're starting to see some of that already, so fingers crossed that it continues.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, sure, absolutely. So we're going to kind of focus on, in terms of these emerging markets, the Latin American region. Just starting with a little bit of an icebreaker. You're very familiar with a lot of places in the world. You've traveled a lot and been in different countries and so on for many years. What's your kind of favorite country or region or in South America, in Latin America?
You put me on the spot here.
Yeah.
I've got friends and colleagues, of course, all over LATAM. So I got to be careful what I say.
Because they're all going to hear it.
Exactly. The cool thing about LATAM, is every place is different. The food is different. The people are different, even though they speak largely the same language outside of Brazil.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the biggest surprise for me was when I first went to Colombia.
Yeah.
Colombia still has a bit of that overhang of the old days. Pablo Escobar and so forth. But it is a fascinating country, super fast growth, highly educated people who want to do well, and it's starting to get recognized as a bit of the Silicon Valley of Latin.
Really?
So if I had to choose a place where I would go and set up a business, it'd be there.
Wow, that is really interesting. I haven't managed to travel to Latin America yet. I've only been to...
when you get a chance, we'll do it together.
Definitely. No, that would be really cool. I'll take that invitation now and
do absolutely. When we both travel, we do it together.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Look, Colombia, third largest economy in Latam.
Is it?
None, right? Brazil and Mexico, number 1 and 2, and then Colombia.
Yeah.
And it's growing fast. So again, I'll answer your question that way.
No, definitely. And it's interesting you mentioned Colombia, actually, because that is one of the regions where we've got some pretty strong partnerships and stuff. And like you mentioned, there's some really nice, strong brands there that are really going places. So that's cool to know. And hopefully we can really blossom some of the partnerships in that region. And then, as you say, we can jet off there together and have some fun, But
plenty of fun to be had, business-wise and otherwise.
That sounds cool. Well, look, let's go in a bit deeper then on this and cover this kind of topic of why, in your experience and your opinion, Latin America now is such a prime market for e-commerce.
So look, I'll start with this. Just in the last 5 years, the e-commerce size has tripled in Latam. Imagine or compare this to any developed economy, and you see the growth is there. And yet, with all this growth, still you have large swaths of the population that are still underbanked. E-commerce is still kind of low double digits, in the low teens of retail spend. In some countries, even low single digits. And so the growth is there. It's massive. I've got to say, just like in the rest of the world, we've seen the lockdowns really push everyone, both consumers and merchants, retailers, into e-commerce. So that's spurred the growth. And what I see is, three kind of trends. One is the local online merchants have accelerated their growth and expanded their offering. Second, we've seen the bricks and mortar merchants in many countries go online because they've had to, including the corner shops, including the grocery stores, all online. And we've seen an influx from mostly US, but global merchants, really from all over the world, looking to take part of that growth. So all of a sudden, the selection, the choice for any Latin American consumer is much higher. Now, I think that will only generate further growth. And I think now is the time for anyone considering growth opportunities that is a leader in e-commerce to be thinking, how do I enter what country in Latin America? We talk about Latin America, but it's not a country. Each country is different, right? Both culturally and from a consumer kind of expectation perspective, consumer habits, payment methods, payment habits. So that's what makes it exciting for us, because we're already there. We at PayU have built a strong business there across all the countries in Latin America. And what I see is, we've got the three big, Colombia, Brazil, Mexico. We've got Argentina, Peru, and Chile already growing really rapidly as well. So we've got a number of countries that are absolutely gangbusters when it comes to growth, when it comes to offering, and when it comes to emerging sophistication, not just on payment methods and online penetration and mobile adoption, but also on regulation. So, we're in touch with and working closely with all of the central banks and regulators. Things are changing for the better.
Yeah. I was going to say about that, I mean, is it as simple for an e-commerce brand to, knock up a website in these regions? I mean, is there complication around it? Is there a lot to figure out and get your head around when it's sort of breaking into a new market as an e-commerce brand that isn't in those territories already?
So I'd say, while it's a great opportunity, it's not without its challenges. I think it's actually pretty complicated. One, because you do have a number of countries. The great thing is, you get 2 languages. So for that swath of land and region and countries, language is not an issue. What is an issue is you've got different tax regulations. You've got different import regulations, import duties and regulations. You've got, like I was saying, different payment method needs that consumers are used to and adopt.
Yeah.
It's not for the most part, not a super well carded region, in terms of credit and debit cards.
Yeah.
Which then presents a problem for players coming from the outside to offer the best payment methods that exist. And on top of that, there are local buy now, pay later or credit options that you want to build or you want to implement into your offering as a e-commerce merchant. You need someone who has already done it to partner with you.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And what about the actual your experience, your knowledge of the customers themselves? Their expectations and their preferences and stuff. Is there a lot of difference between countries or between regions and other parts of the world?
So look, I think the commonality is fairly young population across LATAM that all wants to be online. Large proportion already is, and are growing into the affluence to be able to shop online. So those are the trends that I think in general we see in the majority of our markets, the high growth markets around the world, the emerging markets around the world. Yeah. There are, of course, nuances, and the majority of the nuances I think come from, one, the brands I know and the brands I trust. 2, how I like to pay. And 3, what are the new payment options that are coming out in my market that I'm interested in and I'd like to see on the checkout page of any merchant brand, right, that I encounter. And I think the other one is, we see quite a bit of differentiation on the various sectors that people shop in, which is actually quite interesting. We have a pretty broad spectrum of merchants across multiple sectors of e-commerce, and because we're a strong player in the region with thousands of merchants and millions of consumers, we have the data to see what sectors grow and in what country. And it's fascinating to see, fashion would grow really well in one market, whereas digital goods would be the kind of the leader in another. So that's another set of, I think, data points that a merchant thinking about what market do I enter when is an important, aspect to take into account.
Yeah, that's interesting, is it? Why is that? Do you know why certain countries or regions are bigger on fashion than others? I mean, is it just cultural difference or what? I mean,
I think it's less cultural. I think it's the way the markets develop, right? So most emerging markets start to develop with kind of local champions, and I think it's the way the market develops, and then it takes a while until you have regional players or global players to come into these particular verticals. So I think you see, what has been somewhat of a pent-up demand, let's say in fashion in one market, that is solved by, let's say, a Zara or an H&M coming into the market. Then you see that growth, or a Nike or an Adidas, right? From our partners. Whereas, in another market, you may see digital goods. It again was a need that was not solved. All of a sudden, now you have Netflix coming into that market, localizing, and then you've got the growth. The other thing that I would say is, even though we look at LATAM as a region, right? Each country requires its own unique localization, right? And we see that certain brands do a better job than others in localizing, and therefore you see, those sectors grow faster than others, depending on how well it's localized.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So this idea of localization makes sense. Also, like we say, kind of comes back to the complexity of it all, right? So how does a merchant localize then in this region? Do they have to use like a local agency or something, or is there experts and consultancies that help, or is it the brand themselves that goes there and sets up, does it? How does it all work?
So there are different methods. Largely, you want to, if you're just starting out and exploring LATAM, you want to do your homework and you want to choose the right partner, I would say, before you really set on, do I go and establish local operations, or do I want to serve that market as a cross-border merchant? That's part of what we do at PayU, and I'll do a shameless plug here.
No, go for it, because I don't know. Yes, go for it.
Yeah, so look, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is not only do we have a single API that merchants can connect to, but we have local operations, local teams, and local platforms that actually are connected. We've done the hard job over the years of connecting to all of the local banks, schemes, payment methods, and tweaking risk models and so forth, and reporting modules and so forth, to make it simple for the merchant to access those markets. Additionally, the added benefit of having PayU as a partner is we're local, connected to local regulators, local tax authorities, the local ecosystem of e-commerce and payments providers. And that goes a long way in us being able to advise our partners or merchants on what is the best way in each country to set up. How do you start? How do you evolve? At what point do you want to set up a local entity? At what point do you want to switch your way of processing? How do you route the transactions? All of that, I think, is things you need to consider, and we at PayU help with beyond just the typical payment transaction processing.
Makes sense. Yeah, I was going to say about that. So it sounds like you're not only a payment provider, but also kind of a consultancy, right?
We do that for our merchants, right? So we don't have a consultancy practice. We don't charge for it, but this is part of the set of services that we look to bring to our merchant partners. Why? Because look, at the end of the day, we at PayU focus on how do we provide the absolute best experience for the online shopper to shop on any merchant that they want. And for that, you need to have the right setup, the right set of payment options, the right set of risk models and compliance models. And you need to make sure that the merchant is set up the right way so that they can service that consumer the best. And so, we see it as part of the entire offering for us that we offer to our merchants.
Well, yeah, it makes sense. You have to succeed in the territory for sure. And I think that's nice that, anybody who is thinking about that territory, or those territories, knows that guys like you are out there and have the expertise. And almost, if on one hand you've got a fantastic business model or supply chain or whatever it is that's making your e-commerce brand work, then you might be quite excited about moving into these type of territories, knowing that there are people there that can help. And it's not just like, whoa, there's this big black hole of how do you do it, I'm quite interested in, I know you mentioned earlier about how some areas are, fashion, some are digital goods, whatever. I'm quite interested to know a little more of a breakdown in that, in the sense that, if there are particular brands that know, which territory should I be focusing on, versus another one. Do you have any more detail around which regions are doing really well for which types of e-commerce and stuff?
Mm-hmm. So look, we recently published a kind of a report series called The Next Frontier, where we, in fact, from the data that we have and additional data from the markets, from our payments data and additional data from the markets, we looked and explored kind of the most promising markets in e-commerce in 21 and beyond, both by vertical and by market. So I'd encourage our listeners to go and check it out. And maybe we can put a little link to it as well.
No, definitely.
Come to my LinkedIn page and you'll see it.
Send me the link. I'll put it into the show blog notes or something like that.
Super. Yeah, that'd be great. I'll do that. And look, from that, there are a number of trends that we look at and we promote. So, as an example, beauty and cosmetics. Has been a massive growth sector in a place like Mexico. I can't tell you exactly why, but we see the data, we see the trend. Argentina and Chile, we see massive increase in fashion, fashion, clothing, retail, accessories. We see digital goods kind of across the region, but in particular in Colombia and Argentina taking massive growth. I think, again, back to our earlier point, pent-up demand, the offering comes. And then one emerging sector, I would say, has been online education.
All right.
It's been there for a while, but, especially, I would say, again, through the pandemic and through lockdowns, naturally, people have had to get into education platforms, but also I think what we see and hear is people flock to new ways to either improve themselves, spend their time, do finally the thing they've been wanting to do, either learn a new language, learn coding, learn the guitar, whatever. And so that has been a fascinating sector to watch and for us to get involved in. It's got its own challenges because it's mostly marketplaces type models. And so we've developed a model to serve, the marketplace as well as individual freelancers, if you will, on those marketplaces. That's gone really, really well.
Yeah, that's interesting because we talked about marketplaces in other episodes and the kind of the insurgents, if you like, or what's that word? The sort of like acceleration of the idea of marketplaces outside of the big ones, your Amazons and so on. So you've seen that as well then, and then obviously there's application of that in those regions and education for one, but any others as well?
Absolutely. Well, look, transportation, right? So you can consider Uber a marketplace. It's a two-sided marketplace. Beat or Bolt, right? Any of the kind of mobility providers, which is another vertical that had a dip. Now it's coming back as people are starting to kind of travel locally again. Marketplace. The marketplace model, I think, is in education we talked about, but in retail as well. But any of the services that are, what we see is finally people are able to contribute what they know and make money out of it by joining a marketplace, whether it's a trade, whether it's education, whether it's using your car as an Uber driver, or just doing trade, selling goods.
Well, I mean, all that was really fascinating to hear about what's going on in these emerging markets, obviously focusing on LATAM. But you're saying that you focus on a lot of other emerging markets as well. Is that right, or do you just run the LATAM side of things? What's the
No, globally. So I run our global payments business, which spans over 20 markets across Latin America, Africa, Central Eastern Europe, Turkey, Russia, Southeast Asia. We also have a massive business in India, which we run separately in India for India. Opportunity there as well. All of that is connected with what we call the PayU hub. The PayU hub is our smart orchestration layer that we've built on top of all of the local platforms that connect to all of the local banks and payment systems and payment methods all around our markets. And we provide that to our merchants and our partners. You connect once, and you can benefit from any of the applications, payment methods, and expertise we have in any of the emerging markets.
I'm glad I asked that question, because I mean, obviously we focus on LATAM, but it's way bigger than that. Actually, if merchants do want to talk to you and get involved with PayU, that opens up quite a large territory set. It sounds like, it's amazing.
Absolutely. Look, I think when you think about the old term of emerging markets, which we've recoined as high growth markets.
Yeah.
We consider ourselves the leader in high growth markets. There isn't a geography that would be considered high growth that we're not present in, and not just to process payments, but really, as I was saying, locally on the ground with direct connectivity to local payment methods and local schemes. So yes, absolutely. If any of our listeners have interest in any emerging markets, any high growth markets, whether you're present there or you're looking to further enhance your growth, your approval rate, your pricing, absolutely, we should be speaking.
Definitely. And in a nutshell, knowing from your experience, what are the high growth markets at the moment?
Oh, wow. I think the opportunities are pretty vast. So I would say, we've been speaking about LATAM, right?
Yeah.
One market that we've been very fortunate to be in for a number of years, Colombia.
Yeah.
Very, very high growth, but around it, all of LATAM is on fire, I think. The expectations of growth there are well to the 20 to 40%, depending on who you ask per year. So that's,
what about other though? What about outside of LATAM?
Outside of LATAM, look, you and I spoke a bit about Turkey. A market like Turkey is absolutely on fire as well.
Yeah.
One, because young population, digitally savvy, really sophisticated when it comes to banking and mobile, but still a large percentage of people who are underbanked. 40% of the country is still underbanked. And it's a massive economy, young economy. So that's one market we're super excited about in terms of growth. Central Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe, when you compare to other European markets, you've got double, triple the growth in places like Poland, Romania, Czech, Hungary. And then moving east, India in its own right, absolutely massive opportunity. That's already, I think, emerged, but continues. Just the sheer numbers and growth there, not just in terms of payments, but also being able to provide credit and access to credit in a much more seamless way, which is also one of the things we do as PayU, is just a massive opportunity there.
Yeah.
And then, finishing off with Southeast Asia and Africa, these regions are absolutely still emerging. Southeast Asia, the opportunities are just starting to be seen. Indonesia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Malaysia. And then, Africa is a fascinating continent. It's another one that we can spend a whole podcast on, I think. We're present in the three largest opportunities, we think: South Africa, Nigeria, and Kenya. The entire region is poised for growth, I think, over the next 10 years.
Very, very interesting. Thank you so much for that. So if the guys, want to talk to you, your team, in more detail about all this stuff, what's the best way for them to get hold of you?
Hey, come to payu.com or reach out to me on LinkedIn. We're always here to talk about this, and like you say, all this stuff in payments and emerging markets and high growth. But equally, always looking to partner with like-minded players in e-commerce who are looking for growth.
Absolutely. No, it sounds great. And just one final thing, not to put you on the spot again, but put you on the spot.
Feel free. Come on.
So I want you to pluck something out of your vast experience, life experience, personal or business or whatever you want. Give the guys some golden nugget to take away the rest of their day or evening. Please, Mario.
You are putting me on the spot. I'll share one thing. A personal story. which to me is heartwarming, especially in these times of pandemic lockdowns. We're still not out of it, right? We're doing well in the UK here, Phill, but many other countries are struggling. I was with my family a few weeks ago, and kind of one of these rare moments where the whole family's around. The sun was rarely shining through the window. Actually, you could feel the warmth, which doesn't happen often in the UK, especially this summer. And we're playing a board game with my kids, and it just struck me that we've got to be kind of thankful for these little moments of joy that we have and what we have around us. And this is what we try to do at PayU, is not just be super focused on growth and profitability, but also take care of our communities, also make sure that everyone around us is equally blessed, or we can help them feel more blessed. So that to me was kind of one of these moments of, wow, I am blessed. I've got my family, and actually, silver lining on the lockdown, I've managed to spend a lot more time with them than I would have normally, because I would have been on a plane somewhere. And so just be mindful of these little moments of joy, I guess, around in these difficult times.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. It's so easy to get caught up in the past and get caught up in the future and actually forget the now. And there's been a massive trend of kind of mindfulness over the last few years, particularly in businesses as well, where it's just trying to, get people to, appreciate the now and get the best out of the now. Because the interesting thing about it is that when one does that, and I know it is sometimes difficult, but you often remove the reactionary part of that moment. So if you're mindful that the fact that you are playing a board game with your kids, but you should be, finishing off this, that, and the other, or there's something else you want to do, you're immediately in a frame of mind that can create some kind of reaction, negative reaction normally in that moment. Whereas if you're going, actually, do you know what? Park that for a sec. I'm playing Monopoly with the kids, and they're loving it, and they're loving that Dad is doing it. Or they're playing Minecraft, and they say, look, Dad, play Minecraft with us, And you're in that moment, and it's like suddenly, like you say, you find joy in that moment, and it's not about the fact you've got the car to wash or the project to finish or whatever. So yeah, I totally agree with that. Mindfulness is a great bit of wisdom for the day.
And especially in these times when, hey, I'm on this computer all day long, or on the phone all day long, and it blends, right? The personal and business time blends. So I think it's especially important to do that in these times.
Totally, absolutely. Well, Mary, listen, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Phill. Thanks for hosting.
Absolutely, it's really appreciated. And guys, I hope you enjoyed that chat. I certainly learned, as I always do every time, as you know, learn loads about new things. If you want to keep in touch and you've got any requests for any particular topics, ideas, you want to be involved, a couple of things, head over to segmentify.com/PGS, sign up, and or ping me an email anytime, Phill@segmentify.com. Obviously, get in touch with Mara as well if you want that link to that paper that they've done, and obviously we'll try and get it out as well as part of the post that we put out on social media and stuff together. But yeah, thank you so much for your time, Mary, once more.
Thanks, Phill, as well. And for all of our listeners, go to payu.com or ping me directly on LinkedIn, and we'll get chatting more.
Absolutely. Take care, guys. Have a lovely rest of your day and evening. God bless, and speak to you again soon.
Take care, everyone.